There was something missing. I knew that feeling inside, homie was of the spirit. And like a fish on the line, he went and drew me near it. I caught the bait and was hooked like we was going fishing. In the world they try to fill the void with carnal things. Cars, clothes, money, women, and the diamond rings. You think you need it, but what's really on the flip side? You cop the Beamer, but you empty on the inside. You buy the Gucci, buy the Louis, and you cop the Prada. You ain't hip unless you got the latest fancy product. Is this all humanity exists for? Or these are the only things that make up life? It's so easy to get caught up in the programming. A little glamour's all it takes for us to get enticed. You're worth more than the treasure of the finest gold. Just as the Father made you, that's what you need to know. Once upon a time, I was just like you. Getting money in this world's the only thing I knew. I wore my sins on my sleeve with some fresh nights too. But the Bible boy changed my view. But I was just like you. Once upon a time, I was just like you. Getting money in this world's the only thing I knew. I wore my sins on my sleeve with some fresh nights too. But the Bible boy changed my view. But I was just like you. The devil knows what gets us. He knows us very well. He got a whole generation caught up in a spell. He keeps the truth covered from you like a wedding veil. Knowing that the way you live in boils send you straight to hell. They say life is a party, so you should live it up. You don't need a soul, go ahead and give it up. But I'ma tell you different, tell you that they wrong. Tell you about the living God is sitting on that throne. And send you a message through the lyrics of this very song. That you a child of Jacob, that's why they did you wrong. But your God is calling, and he sent the Son. And we can overcome the struggle through his very blood. So turn away from evil and make your way to Christ. He'll take your sins as scarlet, and then he'll make them white.
Hey, what's up, Michaela? How you doing? Good morning, Miss Flores. Pray all is well with everyone.
This ain't cold, this is you and me. A brother sent to speak the truth. Truthfully. The scriptures that was hitting, boy, I speak with fluency. The Holy Spirit filled my page with lyrics just for you to see. To break the bonds of the captives and to set them free. But you ain't know that you were slave to the system, slave to the corporation, slave to religion, a slave to your sins in the days that we live in where the gays run parades to persuade our children. You better repent before Yeshua pay this earth a visit. And you resent all the time you wasted and all the lies you entertain and all abominations. Wouldn't keep the law or the holy convocations. He gave us breath, he gave us life, so it's our obligations. Why would you rather chase Satan and choose to walk the road of fire and brimstone in the combination? Once upon a time, I was just like you, getting money in this world.
Shabbat Shalom, Facebook fam.
I wore my sins on my sleeve with some fresh nights too. But the Bible boy
I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to week 2 of the resurrection of the so-called black man, the so-called African-American man that is in this country. I'd like to give all praise this morning to Ahaya Bahashem Yeshaya, Wurrawuk. And for those who are not familiar with the Hebrew, that is all praises to the Most High in the name of Christ as well as the Holy Spirit. Once again, we'd like to welcome each and every one of you to week 2 of the resurrection of the so-called black man, of the so-called African-American man who is from the tribe of Judah, from the nation of Israel. We'd like to thank each and every one of you, as we said on the outset, for joining us today. We know you could have been anywhere in the world this morning, so the fact that you took time out of your busy schedule, we just thank each and every one of you for your time. We don't take it for granted. On this last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we salute all our Israelites, brothers and sisters out there this morning. To all the Israelites who are observing the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread this weekend and the next week, we salute each and every one of you. And we just thank God for the awakening of our people, that we are truly coming into the understanding of who we are, that we're not black, that we're not African American, that we are from the tribe of Judah, from the nation of Israel. And we just thank the Most High for all he has done throughout this week, all that he's continuing to do in our lives. Now, we had last week off. Last week, of course, we was observing Passover last week and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, so we did not have a Sabbath lesson. But back a couple weeks before we did begin the resurrection. For those who may be joining us for the first time today, we do want to thank you. But for those who've been continuously walking with us, we did 46 weeks of lessons called The Awakening, where we taught lessons of showing who we are in the Bible, that we are not black, that we're not African American. But now, as we have transitioned from the awakening, we're transitioning now into the resurrection. As we told you in the outset, in the beginning, a couple weeks ago when we first started this series, that Ezekiel the 37th chapter will be our base scripture for this teaching series. It is going to show you exactly how the Most High is going to resurrect us from out of these graves and bring us back into our land as we reclaim this kingdom. Now, today we have a very interesting lesson. Before we get into the lesson, I want to address something. On last week, as I said, Better Day Ministries, along with many other Israelites around the world, observed the Passover, as well as the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Today, when the sun go down, will be the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And there's many Israelites today that are celebrating Passover and will be celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread once the sun goes down. And so we always told you that we would never use this platform, never come into Israel or anything of that nature, because we know that all of us are at the point where we're beginning to awaken to who we truly are. So it really truly, no matter, everybody is just in a process where we're learning, where we're getting understanding. The Most High is giving us revelation on each day. And so because we're all not aligned with the same things, doing things at the same time, I just thank God that we're on a path back truly to Him, and that we have walked away from the pagan things of Christianity. But at the same time, there's been a lot of questions about who is right, who is wrong. And we don't get into that who is right, who is wrong. We're just trying to do what the Most High has given us, and we relay that information to the people that we teach. We never spend time just pointing fingers or doing comparison. We just give you the scriptures from what we do, and that's what we do. Simple as that. But throughout this week, we've been getting a lot of questions. A lot of people have been asking us questions, talking about, well, the Christians are celebrating Easter and Good Friday. You know, you guys celebrated the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread last week. You got Israelites celebrating this week. But everybody believes that they're right. Who are we to tell the Christian church that they're wrong for something they've been doing for 2,000 years? Well, actually, it's been a little less than that, but that's another lesson for another time. But what we wanted to do today, we thought about it and prayed about it because we wasn't really sure if the people were ready to receive this. But I'm going to give it to my people anyway. There's a historical writing for the Hebrews called the Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees was given to Moses on top of the mountain when he first got the Ten Commandments. This is why he was up there for so long. Because the Most High gave him all dividing of time, showed him everything that was going to happen in the world. This is why Moses worked so hard during those years to get the children of Israel on board, because he knew that what would happen if they strayed away from the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. And in that chapter 6, the Most High laid out to Moses exactly what was going on and what would happen, what would eventually go to our people. So today I'm just going to give you just a small excerpt of what the scriptures say in the Book of Jubilees. And we're going to verify it in the Book of Daniel, so that even though many of you may not have heard of the Book of Jubilees before, we're going to precept it to the Book of Daniel, which will say the exact same thing, so that way you know that what we're going to be reading here is valid. You have to understand that the people of the Catholic Church and the people of Catholicism, the people of the Protestant Reformation have came in and grabbed our books, our Hebrew writing books, and telling us that our books are not spiritually inspired. But you have no right or no authority to claim anything that has to do with the Hebrews. It's not right. It is up for the Hebrews to determine what is right. So today we're going to give you these scriptures from the Book of Jubilees to explain to you, number one, how things got off and how we began to take on the things of the Gentiles. More importantly, the question that people ask all the time, then, why is the Jewish people doing the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread this week and you doing it another time? Why are you guys never lining up with the Jewish people? And well, we did a lesson last week on the Passover, Friday night. And if you look at my videos, it's called the Passover Celebration. You will understand fully why you will never see a Better Day Ministries align with anything that the Jewish people do. Anything. So just go in and check that out so you will understand why you will never see a Better Day Ministries aligned with anything that Judaism teaches. Anything. All right? But now, let's go into the Book of Jubilees. We're going to show you something real quick before we get into the lesson, to give you an understanding of how our people, the so-called black man, the so-called African-American man, is divided in so many different ways, and how we're not on one accord, and how it happened for us to get off base, and what we need to do in order to get back. So we're going to go to the Book of Jubilees. I'm going to read this quick, and then we're going to get into the lesson. The Book of Jubilees, chapter 6, and we're going to look at verses 30 through 38 there. All right, pretty sure most of you don't have the Book of Jubilees. And right now, to be honest with you, I'm just going to be honest with you, some of you that are just now learning, this is not something that you need to dive into right now. You need to get the Bible down pat. You need to get the Apocrypha down pat. And once you get those things understood, then you can move into the other things. But these things take time. But we needed to give you these things because we're having a lot of questions, and we just can't keep saying, take our word, take it for our word. Shabbat Shalom, Soup. Good seeing you on with us this morning. So we're going to go into the Book of Jubilees. We're going to read this because this can answer your questions. Why are our people that know themselves, know that to be Israelites, why are some people keeping the feast one day and keeping another feast? Why are our people that are still in Christianity doing Easter and Christmas and things that the Gentiles do that they cannot find in the Bible, but they believe that they're right? We're going to show you here today. Book of Jubilees, chapter 6, start at verse 30.
And all the days of the commandments will be 250 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets.
So the Most High told Moses, said, listen, when it comes to a year, that year will be 52 weeks, 7 days in a week, 52 weeks a year. He said, this is already written in the heavenly tables. That means that the Most High ordained this from the beginning of time. When he created time, this is what he intended for the years to go. We're going to show you more. Just keep that in mind. Verse 31.
And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year from year to year.
So the Most High said, listen, this ain't no changing this. You're not going to do this one year and then the next year something else. Do we see that now? Where they have things that they call leap years and all these other things that the Gentiles have created. That's completely off of what the Most High said. Just stay with me. Verse 32.
And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days.
He said how many days?
364 days.
Uh-huh.
And these will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall in them according to their testimony. And they will not leave out of any day or disturb any feast.
Now, you see that? So he said that 52 weeks, 7 days in a week, if you do the multiplication, that will equal up to 364 days. And he said if you're following the calendar of 364 days, all the feasts will always occur every year on the same time. And for those who've seen the lesson that we did with the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Most High said, before the law and in the law, that the 14th day of the year, the second Sabbath of the year, at sundown, was the Passover. Right? So when you go back with us and you go, remember we started and we told you when the new year began. And we counted 14 days. This is how the Passover began. The way we understand it is because we went to the book of Enoch. And the book of Enoch tells us that the first day of the year will always be equal night sun, equal night's day. You notice that when we said the first day was the new year, remember how they did what they call daylight saving time? Right? That's how we had equal night sun, equal night's day. According to the book of Enoch, this will always be the first day of the year. So we counted from that day, 14 days, and that's how we begin the Sabbath, the Passover last week. Friday, sundown. So the reason we're doing what we're doing is based on the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees. Living on a 364-day calendar. You understand? Just stay with me. Listen to what the Most High says. And he says, if you do this, The feast will always happen at the same time. You understand? It won't never be this year it's in April and then next year it's in March. It will never happen that way. Right? Now check this out. It says, verse 33.
But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandments, they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from disorder. And they that disturb the seasons and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their orders.
So the Most High said, once they move away from doing this, this is how they will get off with the feast. See, this is what people don't understand, is that when you keep the feast according to the Bible, you have to understand that the Bible says that in heaven they're doing the feast at the same time. You understand? So whenever we keep the Passover, in heaven they're keeping the Passover. When we're keeping the Feast of Tabernacles, they're keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. You understand? So this is why the Most High said these things must be aligned with what he's doing, because it's supposed to be on that certain time. You're never going to see the Passover one year in March and then the next year is in April. It's not going to happen. You're never going to see the Passover on any other day than the Sabbath, according to what the Israelites doing. But if you don't believe me, you can go research it. Last year, the Passover for the Jewish people was on Sunday night, Sunday sundown, Monday sundown. You understand? And that's completely against what the Most High said in his word. Verse 34.
And all of the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years. They will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years.
So the Most High said, when you don't keep this according to his law, according to what he said, he said this is how his people were going to eventually forget when the Sabbath is supposed to happen. They was going to forget the new moons. That means when the seasons start. And they will forget the days of the feast. This is why when you go to the average person who calls himself a Christian and say, hey, did you keep the feast of the Most High? They have no idea what you're talking about. And he's going to tell us why. Verse 35.
For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising. For the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained.
So he said right there, he said, listen, Moses is saying, this is not something that I'm coming up with. This is not something that I'm assuming is going to happen. I'm seeing it all written in heaven. The Most High is showing it to me. And he said what?
Lest they forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles.
Lest they do what?
Lest they forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles.
You see that? So this is the answer to your question of how our people, the so-called black men, the so-called African American man, have no idea what the Passover is. Has no idea what the Feast of Unleavened Bread is. Have no idea what the Feast of Dedication is. Has no idea what the Feast of First Fruit is. Have no idea what the Day of Atonement is. And they have went after the feast of who?
Feast of the Gentiles.
Of the Gentiles. This is why our people are celebrating Easter. This is why our people are celebrating Christmas. This is why our people are celebrating Thanksgiving and not keeping the Feast of the Most High. You understand? Because you can't find Easter here in the Bible. Now I can show you where the Most High told them not to follow the Mother of Heaven, not to follow Semiramis, and not to follow Ishtar. I can show you that. But you can't see it here anywhere in the Bible where the Christ, the apostles, or the disciples were keeping Easter. You can't find it nowhere in there. You understand? So read that last part for him again. He said, what's going to happen?
Lest they forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles, after their error and after their ignorance.
Verse 36.
For there will be those who will surely make observations of the moon.
They're going to make observations of the what?
Make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in year to year 10 days too soon.
This is why your Easter happens in March one year and the next year is in April. This is why the Jewish people Passover one year is in March and the next year is in April. Because they're following the moon. This is why some Israelite feast days are off. Because they're following the moon. But look at what he said in verse 37.
For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day, and will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and the Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees.
You see that? So the Most High said it's going to come a time when our people will make an unholy day a holy day. They will make it an abominable day and say that it's the day of the Most High. And is it not what we're seeing now? Because if you'd have brought Easter to the disciples and apostles, you'd have been ran out of the church in the days of the Bible. If you'd have brought Saturnella, what the world knows to be Christmas, what the world knows is Saturnella, you'd have brought that to the disciples, you'd have been ran out of there. If you did it in the Old Testament, you'd have been javelining up. That's what would have happened. You understand? And let me restate this once again. Restate this again. For those who may be joining us for the first time today. We don't do these teachings to ridicule, to judge, or to clown. We're not doing that for this. Because 3 years ago, we were doing the same thing. But what we're trying to explain to you is why what you're seeing is happening. And how we're trying to get our people off of these things and back to the things of the Most High. Verse 38.
For this reason I command and testify to thee that thou mayest testify to them after the death of their children will disturb them, so that they will make the year 364 days only, and for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh.
They're going to eat what?
Eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh.
You see that? So it's going to come to a point in time where if you go back in the Old Testament, the saints would have rather died than to eat pork. Now they're going to be on a holy day named Easter with an Easter ham on the table and saying the Lord did it for them. You understand? This is what he's saying. So we need to understand how we got to this point. It's time out for pointing fingers. It's time out for saying who right, who wrong. And we just need to get back to what the Most High has said in his word. Which brings us to today's lesson. Today's lesson is entitled, Is It Written? Question. Is it written? Of course, we've heard the statement, it is written. But today, I'm asking you a question. Is it written? Is what you're doing on a daily basis written in the Most High's word? And how you're celebrating the feasts and the traditions that you're keeping, is it written in the Bible? The day you worship on, is it written in the Bible? The lifestyles you live in, the things that you're keeping, the things that you hold dear, is it written? This is the question that I'm proposing to you today. Let me say this on the outset before we get started. What I have discovered is that our people, the so-called black man, the so-called African American man, and this goes for the Israelites as well as Gentiles, to be honest with you, our people believe in Christianity, but they don't believe in the Bible. And I know that statement may shock you, but I'm going to say it again so you can understand what I mean by it. Many of our people believe in Christianity, but they don't believe in the Bible. The majority of the doctrines that are preached in the churches around this country, in the Western world, the traditions and the rituals that they do and keep, the lifestyle of most of the people, the standards in which the people believe that they can live, they're supposed to live by, you cannot find in the Holy Bible. Now they may get excerpts from this chapter, some from this part, but as a totality, what they believe in is Christianity, and it's not the Bible. And this is why there's so much friction that's going on right now amongst our people. Because what happens is this. When an Israelite or someone who follows the Bible comes to a person and say, explain to me why you're celebrating Easter. And the majority of them have no idea. Only thing they can say, Christ rose. Yeah, we're fully aware that he rose. Right? But we're fully aware that he gave his life on the Passover, which is on the Sabbath. And so we fully understand. Oh, good morning, Jacoby, man. Good seeing you on with us this morning. And we're fully aware that means if he gave his life on the Passover, that it's impossible for him to be raised on a Sunday. We know it's impossible. If the Bible says that he's supposed to spend 3 days and 3 nights in the grave, that it's impossible from Friday to Sunday for that to happen. And we know, because of throughout the years, we've talked to people, and they are fully aware that that doesn't make any sense, but we keep saying it. The preachers keep teaching it. We keep telling our kids this. We keep involving them in things that have nothing to do with the Most High in Christ. And we call it tradition. And people will hold dear to it, but will be angry when you mention the Bible and say that you're judging them. Just think about that. Okay? This is where we are as a people. But something that's been disturbing me more so this week is that I'm noticing that a lot of our people in the church are wore out. I watched them this week as many of them observe what they call Holy Week, when some start on Monday, but a lot of people start on Wednesday, and they have services the whole week leading up to what they believe is a time that they observe and celebrate the resurrection of Christ. All around the world, all around this country, all the different periods of people that I know, I've seen them, conversations with them. They just wore out. They're running on fumes. Because they're going out to these services. The majority of the churches nobody's hardly coming. They're hearing the same message that they heard years ago, the same things being said, the same rhetoric being given to them. They have to do all the work. Nobody comes, nobody helps, nobody supports, nobody ushers, nobody sings. They have to give all the money. And then on top of that, the people that are all in the church that show up on the Sundays are determined to pull the church more and further away from what the Most High says. So those faithful few people that are in the church, the faithful ones who really love the Most High and really are dedicated to Christ, devoted to Christ, they're running on fumes. I seen some of them last night as they was coming out of the churches. You can just see them, and they have no form of encouragement, no enthusiasm about anything. Because what's happening is, after they battle in church with the people who don't believe and the people who's just there for a show, then they have to be constantly attacked by Israelites. All week long, I've been seeing them on social media. Israelites been going in all week long. Not even realizing some of them 3 weeks ago, they was in darkness. You understand? It's amazing to me that I'm seeing, I'm talking about like, it's a matter of days for some, a matter of weeks for some. They're part of that, what we call the link ministry, where somebody done sent them a link, somebody sent them a meme or something, and then all of a sudden everything about their religion changes, and then they start attacking Christians and church folks. When you were doing the same thing, I seen you with the pictures you got right now from last December, celebrating Christmas, standing around a Christmas tree with a Santa Claus hat on your head, and then now you're dissing Christians for following Easter. It's really sad. So some of our people who are walking in the truth are not using the truth to build the people up. They just want to attack. Right? So every time the Christian can't even go on social media during the week of Christmas or during the time of Easter or Thanksgiving or Halloween and all these things because they're getting bombarded by attacks. Right? And then when they go onto their jobs, and then when they go onto their barber shops and their hair salons and the grocery stores, and just sitting around with other family members, when the questions come up and say, hey man, where's Good Friday in the Bible? Where's Easter in the Bible? Show me where the disciples was worshiping on Sunday. Right? They have no answers. And they're frustrated. Because they know really, they've been going over and over and over doing something they don't even have any answers for. And I'm starting to see the frustration that's coming on the people. And the only reason that they're holding on, the majority of them will never quit because they love the Most High. And it's been instilled in their head that they got to keep going on and see what the end's going to be. So today, when as we give this lesson called "Is It Written?" we're not coming from the perspective of trying to beat our people down. Our people getting beat down by the Gentiles and by the world and by the Satan enough every day. So when they come to the people, when they come to their own brethren, they should be able to receive love. They should be able to receive exhortation. They should be able to receive some form of truth without being ridiculed and laughed at. So today we're going to do this lesson, and we're doing it strictly out of love. I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not toning it down. But I want for any person who is a follower of Christ that comes across this, whether you be Israelite, whether you be a Gentile, I want my people to understand that the Most High loves you, and that His hands are extended for you to come home. You need to walk away from Christianity. You need to walk away from this pagan stuff of the church, and you need to come back to the Most High. You're not black. You're not an African American. You're from the tribe of Judah, from the nation of Israel. And the Most High, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the one we serve. And so as we set this lesson up and build this foundation, I want you to get an understanding and ask yourself, is it written? Now let's go to Malachi, the 3rd chapter.